What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back. This is the Humble Marksman channel. If you like stuff about guns, competition shooting, and over-analysis, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. So on deck today, we're going to talk about the plunk test. So some people getting new into reloading or maybe just haven't loaded for CZs, which have short leads. We need to talk, guys. So I've heard and seen many people start loading CZs and they use their old Glock loads or M&P loads and the slide will hang out of battery. And what happens is they're loading the projectiles too long so that the projectile's hitting in the rifling and the case is not fully in the chamber and it sticks out of battery. That's a bad situation. So what you do is you take your projectile, and this load data is incredibly specific just to that bullet profile and that barrel. You're going to have to do this on all of the guns you intend to reload for. Most modern Service 9s, it's not that big a deal, and you can get away with using the same stuff over and over. But it's a good idea if you have a fleet of 9mm handguns specifically. You're going to want to do this on every single one. Figure out which barrel you've got has the shortest lead, that's L-E-A-D-E, and load to that one's length. So let's talk about how we do the plunk test. So what you want to do the test is a fired piece of brass that you can slip a projectile into just barely, and you want to keep it long. So you see that's very long, that's not going to fit in any barrel. Take the barrel for the gun you're loading for, insert it into the chamber. Don't press down too hard, but once it's seated all the way, pick it out with your nail very carefully. We're going to take the result, we're going to measure it with our calipers. So that one's coming up about 1123 right there. So 1123 is not that long. Most people generally would load 9mm significantly longer than that, like 115 for Glocks and stuff like that. But CZs have short leads, so we can't do that. And the reason that's important is that might vary from book value. It very well will vary from book value. If it's saying to load to 1169 and your gun can't take a projectile that's that long, you need to measure using the plunk test and figure out what can you load to. Now, if the value it comes back is longer, you're fine. You can use book value. It's just your ammo is going to be a little bit slower because there's going to be more case area inside behind the bullet, and therefore you're going to have a slower, less pressure round. You can obviously bump the powder charge and go up and get faster velocities, but that's something you need to do with the chrono. So, but you want to take that number, this 1125, and what I like to do is I take 15 thousandths off that number. So for this particular projectile, to account for variability in the mixed head stamp brass that I use, and I recommend you use, because it's not worth sorting as far as action pistol games are concerned. And I would load this at a maximum length of about 1110. This is about what I would load that to. And that would be the baseline. So I take that data, I set up my press, I'm gonna go load it to 1110. I might load up 5 or 10 dummy rounds, load up a magazine, and just hand cycle it through the gun, making sure that it will feed if it feeds pretty good that way, you can load a small batch, take it to the range, and shoot it to be sure that it's going to shoot reliably in your gun, because that's the name of the game. Velocity is another story. We'll talk about the chrono maybe another time. But it's also worth noting that these two projectiles, this is the old Acme 124, which I think is the new Acme 124 again, and the kind of intermediate Acme 124. This is a lighter red. This was more of a brick red. So I was shooting this projectile for a long time. Slip it into my case here. And this was a fantastic projectile because you could load it really long. I have to get the pliers to get that back out. You could load it really, really long. So that's a 1130, which on a CZ, that's pretty long. Then they changed their mold, kind of without telling anybody on the website, used all the same pictures. They used the same SKU. They didn't show it as being a different mold. So this is the intermediate Acme mold. I know I'm gonna have to pull this one out with pliers. I'm just gonna press it in. Okay, there's a 1068 overall length. That's not that big a deal, but in order to make this projectile work, I'd have to load it at about a 1060, 1065 maybe. That's cutting it a little close to the variability of the head stamp and just for vibrations on a progressive press. So I'd probably load it at 1060. If I took my old load data for this projectile and tried to load this one with it, it wouldn't work because this could not feed at the 1115 or whatever I would load this projectile to. It wouldn't take that. So this actually did happen, and I did kind of break a bunch of ammo that my gun couldn't cycle because it was loaded too long. So it's important to test the projectiles out of every single case of ammo that you buy. Just do a plunk test with one of them and verify that the profile is the same. So an extra tidbit kind of running through some of these, what we have on the table here. This is jacketed hollow point. This is probably the most expensive and most accurate of the projectiles you can load. It's good for match ammo. I wouldn't necessarily recommend using it, rolling your own self-defense load, but guys do that too. This is a full metal jacket projectile. You can see it has a lead base. It doesn't have a copper base. The jacket is drawn down the nose of the bullet, so the base is bare lead, whereas with this, the jacket is drawn from the base and exposed at the nose. This is a plated bullet. This is what I would honestly recommend that most people who have not reloaded before load with. This is, I believe, a Barry's 124 grain. They're a little bit more expensive than the lead bullets. However, they are very forgiving. They load out to a very long length. It's difficult to really damage the plating, although you can damage it through over crimping. And then we have a bunch of different lead profiles. I've probably tried about a dozen different profiles before I settled in on the S&S 125 that I prefer. That's the Blue Bullets 125 round nose. This is the Bayou Bullets 124 grain. This is a really great profile that you can load really, really long in. Accuracy's pretty good out of that sucker. You can pick one of three colors. That's the Bayou Bullet. That is the old Acme profile, which looks like the new Acme profile. Really consistent, really good bullet. Just didn't like how they didn't tell me that they changed the mold. That's the old Acme profile. And then there's your S&S 125 taper cone projectile as well. So that's my current favorite. From what I understand, it feeds really well on bullet feeders as well. So that's the first step of developing a load. Maybe another day we'll talk about powder charges and how to work up a load and take it from there. But hopefully that'll help you getting your CZ fed reliably, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks, guys.